All right, guys, we're back. So does your squats actually suck? You feel like you can improve on them? Well, I got this big man right here.
What's up, guys?
That's gonna show you how to do it, right? If you don't know Matt Domney here, he did some video in the past about deadlift form. Now we're gonna talk a bit about squat form and how you can perfect it to make sure that you're getting bigger lifts, you're getting stronger, and you're building up those legs. Matt, take it away.
So I'm going to cover some assessment stuff for a squat and how I'm going to look at somebody completing a squat in two different phases, right? So my assessment process ends up being a little bit different than a lot of other people's because number one, I'm only gonna look at how he does a loaded movement. I don't really care how he's doing a body weight lift, especially if I'm working with a power lifter or somebody who's looking to get really, really strong. I need to see how they actually train. So I break my assessment down into two different sections. I'm gonna assess the eccentric portion of the lift, so when they're sitting down and when they're going down, and then I'm also going to assess the concentric portion of the lift. And now both of these are gonna have very different implications if I see something that could be potentially quote unquote wrong in either one, right? So if we're gonna use our athlete over here as an example, what we're gonna look at first is we're gonna look at one where I see that he's setting up and doing his setup incorrectly. So if he walks himself out of the monolith, he gets a little bit of space and clearance, right? If we look at him here, he's starting in a good position where his hips are unlocked. He's ready to squat. All he's got to do is bend his knees, right? The first thing that I see a lot of lifters do is they start to push their hips forward, right? So what happens immediately? He moves back a little bit. We can see that the bar is right over the middle of his foot. As soon as his hips push forward, where does that bar go? It moves backwards, right? So that bar is now on his heels as opposed to in the middle of his foot. So he's immediately off balance, right? He's immediately backwards. And then for him to complete the lift, what he has to do, if we watch him squat, he has to swing his hips back, move the bar forward, and the bar path gets all over the place. So what I look at with this is all I have to see is this is an improper setup and execution of the lift. Easiest thing in the world for me to fix. All I'm gonna do is tell him to unrack the bar. So we're gonna start again, he's gonna walk himself out, and then instead of saying, wait, so before you start, don't push your hips forward, let yourself push your hips back a little bit. Now the bar is right over the middle of his foot, and all I want you to do is just bend your knees. Right, so bend your knees and sit down. Boom, and then stand up. So now he's much more on balance. The bar path is right over the middle of his foot. Let's see you do that one again. So he's just gonna bend his knees and sit down, and then stand up. Versus if we were to let you push your hips forward again, so we push your hips forward, bar shifts back, then he squats. We see the difference in how that looks, right? So that is the first thing that I'm gonna look at. If that's the eccentric portion of the lift, I'm gonna just look at that and be like, okay, cool. This is just setup and execution. It's a really, really easy fix. The second one is a little bit more complicated. So the second one is what you see all the time in a squat. So this is gonna be that stripper kind of squat, right? So if you're gonna look at him squat again, this is gonna be, he squats down, his knees shoot back, hips come up, and then he stands up like this. Now with this one, there are two separate things that I'm gonna look at. Number one, I'm gonna look at how long he's been lifting and squatting for. So can you tell me how long have you been training? How long have you been lifting? 13 years, right? So I can probably be pretty sure that he's a decently proficient squatter and he's pretty good at doing the movement, right? If you've been squatting for 13 years, what's your max right now? 485. 485, that is definitely not a beginner. So we're not looking at somebody who's not skillful with the movement, right? If this is a beginner who I've never worked with before, who's got a max, like a relatively low max compared to their body weight, that's gonna be somebody that I go, okay, cool. You're probably just not skillful at this movement. I need you to just do it more. So I'm gonna make them squat more frequently. With him, if he does this same thing where he gets that same stripper style squat again, hips shoot back and come up, what I'm looking at here is as he squats down, I'm gonna ask you to hold it here, right? His quads are maintaining knee flexion, right? So they're holding him in this position. Now I'm gonna ask you to slowly start pushing up like this, right? What's happening here? His knees are extending right away. So his quads, and his brain is saying to his quads, you are not strong enough to hold yourself here. I gotta get my glutes, my posterior, my lats and my hamstrings to help finish this movement, and then he's gonna stand straight up. Right, so he turns the squat into a deadlift or a good morning, and if we're looking at the deadlift or the good morning, we're using your spinal erectors, we're using your glutes, and we're using your hamstrings to complete this lift. So for him, best bang for his buck would just be getting him to isolate his quads a little bit more. Leg pressing, hack squatting, belt squats, split squats, any kind of movement like that, that's really gonna target his quads and make him a lot stronger. Now, the other thing that I can do, if I do not have that equipment, you can rack the bar off, I'm not gonna make you hold it forever. But if I do not have a lot of equipment, I can attack both of those things the same direction. So if he's not a skillful squatter, and if he's not a strong squatter, I can attack them both the same way by making him do higher intensity or higher frequency movements in the squat. It's a really, really easy fix. So again, to recap and wrap this whole thing up, if you see something where they're pushing forward and their bar path is getting all messed up on the eccentric, so as they're going down, you know that their setup and execution is probably flawed. If you see them not being able to stand up and maintain that bar path on the way up, either they're not very skilled or they're not strong enough to maintain that position. This is how I assess all of my lifters for all of their squats, and it's worked great so far with really good results. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thank you.
All right, there you have it. So make sure that you take advantage of this information. Matt here has given you a ton of info that you can take with you to whatever gym you're at. Now, if you're in LA Fitness, make sure you're doing this shit right, all right? And don't make us look bad telling us that you learned it from Daru Strong, all right? Make sure you follow Matt on Instagram.
Instagram's at Matt Dominy. Do not tag me if it looks bad. Tag me only if it looks good, okay?
That's it. We'll find out too as well. All right, make sure you subscribe, hit the notification, hit the like button if you like this video, hit the comments down below. If you have any more questions on it, see you again next time. Peace.